So it's like, what about 2 years from now? Are you in pro ball right now? Are you playing somewhere? Like, who are you playing with? What practice clothes are you wearing right now? And what are you like? What game are you throwing to your like younger self? Understand that and try to take yourself out of it by kind of using yourself in the future of where you want to be. Have you thought about like where you want to be? I want to go to the NFL. That's great. Everyone does. I want to go to the NFL. I haven't gotten drafted in 15 years now. That just went by, right? But I'm not going to be. I'm going to make it there anytime soon, playing right. So I'm not going to be in pads. I have zero experience in that. So take yourself where whatever you see yourself, whatever again time, wherever that is. Try to understand like what the conversation would be like, or like what kind of questions would you be asking yourself if like it was the other way around.
What's going on, Samson Strength Coach Collective listeners? On today's episode, we have Sean Swetnam, Assistant Director of Football Performance for UCLA. Sean, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Connor, man, appreciate you having me on. Let's rock and roll. Let's have some fun.
Dude, I'm stoked for it. I'm very excited. And we were talking about this pre-show a little bit too. Like, you're a mini podcast celebrity right now. Like, everybody's had you on their podcast recently.
No, I don't know what it is, but let's keep the snowball rolling, right?
It's aura. I believe that's what they call it. You got some aura to you.
No, I'm not. I don't know how to do that. Whatever that means, right? Try to act like I don't know what's. Somebody sasaid what the hell the other day. I'm like, okay, I'm stealing that. I don't even know what's going on anymore.
That's a Route 49 song. That is, yeah. I trust me. I'm about as brain rot as it gets with these kids. Like they still keep me very updated. The slop is real. Yeah. All right. Before this devolves into absolute nothingness, can you just give us a breakdown of your career and then what's brought you to UCLA?
Yeah, my name's Sean Swetnam. Again, Connor, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Originally from PG County, Maryland. Moved out here in 2015, moved out towards Orange County in 2017. And yeah, I've been in LA basically ever since. So started out former Division I athlete. The road to professionalism didn't work out so well. A couple speed bumps and kind of pivoted into strength conditioning, sports performance, sports enhancement, whatever title that they allowed me to have at the different places. Was in the private industry from like 2011. Almost 11 years. So, adding that up, going into collegiate, started out at Concordia University, Irvine, got my master's there in coaching and exercise science. It was a great time. Worked with track and field with Coach Bloom, and it was just an amazing experience. Went to take an 8-week summer internship at USC with Coach Steiner, Coach Beerus, Chad Smith, those guys, and ended up staying there for a whole year with two other guys, Jordan Pinella and Devontae Wilson. So really had a great time over there. Really learned a lot about the business side of it when your head coach gets canned in week 2 in season after you get 40 piece by Stanford. Life is kind of hard, and you kind of have to, understand the business of, collegiate sport as well at that level. So got a lot of, I guess if you want to call it street knowledge or, street smarts from that, along with just the practical knowledge of coaching and being involved in traveling and really being in the mix. Had a few opportunities after that, ended up going to UCLA for the Olympic side of that before moving on to football, where I'm at right now currently. Working with the Specs, assist Coach Tim with RTP. He runs the RTP, and we kind of split it up based off of different conditions, including time as well as, specific injury and what's needed and where the protocol is. So he does a great job. And my job there is just to amplify, what the other coaches are doing as well. So I kind of swing and work with the bigs as well, work with everybody, even though Coach Corey Miller, who's our director, does an amazing job with everybody, sets parameters for what's going on, then gives us the autonomy to just, run it, have some fun, get after guys. But we all kind of coach everybody all at the same time, even though we're not excluded to our position groups that we've been given.
No, it's such a cool story too, and we were actually just talking about it right before the show as well. Like, you mentioned that you were in the private sector for a long time, and then you were able to transition over to college, and that can be quite a challenging process, especially for coaches who are just starting out with not having necessarily collegiate background. It can be tough to kind of get your resume looked at. What drew you to college athletics, and then how were you able to kind of break through and actually be able to transition to it from private?
Yeah, great question. I had an experience in college where I transferred schools after my freshman year. Didn't play professionally after an injury, and decided to, like I said before, pivot. And the aforementioned, motive with that was I want to make sure that one, and I said this in my interview with Corey, and we still kind of chirp about this every once in a while too, is I don't want any of our athletes or any of our student athletes, right, to have an experience like I did, where you get finished with college, you don't get a chance to play professionally, and there's this year of, let's say, identity crisis, right? Because like all your life since you were like, I started playing baseball when I was 9, so I was playing other sports up until that, but I'm an athlete. Um, I'm a baseball player, I'm a pitcher, I'm this, I'm that, and this is what you're building and trying to get to this one spot. And then when that's cut off and you're done, you don't have to be at team meetings anymore. You don't have to be at practice anymore. You don't have scheduled lifts. You don't have to be at the at meals at certain times, right? You're not testing for certain things, and your whole schedule and um, everything is kind of just torn asunder. So what do you do in that transition? So I had a really horrible experience for about a year after I got kind of together, and just kind of try to get the wheels turning with regards to like how we're moving forward, what we're doing. I wanted to get involved with the collegiate sector, with being on a retainer basically for a certain team and a specific team specifically, so that I can just move forward, and try to help as much as we can. I like having a group of strength coaches with me, that I work with, so that we can have one goal and move one team. It was really awesome working in Olympic and having, I'm in charge of baseball, I'm in charge of men's water polo, I'm in charge of women's water polo, and we were very successful. But it's always nice having collaboration with one team. Now, we did collaborate with Olympic, like I mentioned before, and with Adam Gardner, who's now at USC, and then Don Malone, who's the director here now, as well as Daniel Rivas and a couple other really great coaches that have been in and out. But we had our staff meetings, and everything was, globally within the Olympic setup was awesome. Um, but they weren't coaching, the same teams I were. So it was just a little bit different. So I got tired of, the private sector where an athlete would come in, um, amateur, professional, whatever. They say, hey, here's some video of what I did this weekend. Here's how I did. Hey, I'm feeling this. I need to recover. My legs are heavy, whatever. We hit a couple workouts that week, and I say, hey, good luck this weekend, right? I got tired of just like being there in that one space, and then they would go and compete, and then I was kind of missing out on that. And when you get busy, and the curse of success, where you're kind of in one spot and you can't really go anywhere because everyone's coming in to see you, and then they're getting tune-ups and adjustments during season, and then people are in off season, and it gets hectic, and it turns into bedlam, right? So I said, hey, I want to be in one spot. I want to be in California. Luckily, with football especially, there's a lot of travel, and people from a lot of different places. I got lucky enough to do my master's, as well as an internship, as well as two different, I guess, setups, two positions in California. Got to stay in Southern California, so I got pretty lucky with that. But strategically, like having a family, having 2 kids, it's kind of nice to be in one spot and just provide them stability, even though I'm doing this as well.
And so I agree wholeheartedly that there's a huge identity crisis that can happen with athletes when they first transition out of sport. I mean, especially for those who are not going on to the professional level. I think it can almost be more challenging for the athletes who have an opportunity to play at the professional level, and maybe in your case, have an injury that occurs, or unfortunately, sometimes things just don't work out, where they're not able to necessarily get the certain position or contracts that they were looking for. What are the things that you focus on when working with these athletes about transitioning out of being an athlete into being more of a regular human being, if you will?
Yeah, I mentioned time before, but just the idea, like the lens of, hey, you're really focused on this specific day or this specific week or this specific season where we're in. Like, what's the outlook of, your timeline of your life of, before you're playing football, and after you're playing football? There's going to be X amount of years after where you have to be like, quote unquote, a civilian, right? Or you have to just, blend into society and be a normal person, or you go coach or whatever it is, right? So the idea or the sentiment of like, enjoy what you're doing right now, be part of a team, uh, get into something like UCLA. Like it's really awesome that all the resources we have here. UCLA Health is around the corner. Like literally, you can see it from outside the office door. And then just all the things that are in LA. There's as much trouble and negativity as there is positivity, and places where you can intern during certain parts of the year, and classes you can take. And there's just a lot going on. And ensuring that they have a setup when they're outside of here in case things don't work out, right? Ensuring that they have an idea of what they want to do, ensuring that they're more of a holistic person as opposed to I'm just a DB, or I'm just, a kicker, or what have you. They have interests, and, they do stuff besides play video games, right? I hope, right? Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. I can guarantee you they do. Well,
Yeah.
how did you pull yourself out of that crisis?
Yeah. So it took a lot of just understanding like what I wanted to do and what was, just kind of listening to myself a little bit more of, hey, I'm not an athlete anymore, right? I'm not a student anymore. What can I do and can I help and like where am I of value? And a lot of it came from speaking to my father, speaking to my now wife, who was who I met in Baltimore. Also, is um, you have certain abilities to coach, to see things, some foresight. Why can't you? Like I started out as a pitching coach, and what happened was I was in a facility in Tyson's Corner, a really nice spot in Virginia, and it turned into, hey, like they're doing great, but they're not strong enough on their lead block leg, or their hip to shoulder separation is just not snappy enough, or what have you, or the elbow to shoulder, like whatever. So I have some exercises, we can do these exercises, and it turned into the place next door was like a multi-sport facility, and then there was a CrossFit. I was working at like 3 or 4 different places, like driving from Greenbelt, PG County, down to Tyson's Corner. Um, Back up towards like Gambrels to like another place, which is like Baltimore, and like this whole spiel. I was working at a high school for a little bit in St. John's College High School in Chevy Chase, DC, and that all to say, like there's once you get the ball rolling, it's really hard to stop the momentum if you are just focused on what you're doing, and you're just like head first in the moment, as opposed to just like kind of dipping your toe in. A lot of it just comes from, hey, like if you're doing this and you're enjoying it, like just send it, right? And like be tired and have some caffeine and get your sleep that you need to and hydrate and make sure you're taking care of yourself. And one of the guys I worked with, Coach Walt Klein, who's at St. John's College High School that I helped out with, because I was doing kind of a dual role of like freshman, sophomore, freshman team, and then I'd come up to the varsity team and help out with some stuff with pitching and just different stuff as well as strength conditioning. One of his famous lines was like, "Hey, I don't trust you if you have clear pee. If you're a strength coach, right? You're not you're too hydrated. You're not busy enough. Or if you're too overly strong looking or jacked, you have too much time to lift. You're not crafting enough." So I mean that's there's sides of the spectrum and the continuum and those are meant to be served, right? So that all to say, yeah, it's just you get busy, like get some action going on, right? It's easy to just sit there and kind of. I didn't have the tools to mentally kind of work my way out of it. Now like there's so many resources here. Again, there's therapy as well as psychological aspects that we have, is like from coaches to the professionals, licensed professionals. So like I didn't have that, like so like I didn't have any tools to just talk my way out of it or kind of like logic my way out of it, if that's the right way to look at it. But I just got busy and just got like into something else, right? I just kind of pivoted, and that kind of helped out tremendously. And now like having kids, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, like like if you don't want this macaroni and cheese, cool, I'll make butter pasta. If you don't want butter pasta, cool, I'll just put pesto on it. Now it's different, right? Oh, you just want toast, you just want butter toast with a little salt on it, great, right? Whatever. It's all just pasta. It's all grain anyway, because it's the same stuff, right? With different toppings. Who cares?
Your kids sound like me. I mean, I literally had buttered toast this morning. That's exactly what I start my morning off with every single day. So,
Yeah.
but I love what you said about it's okay to be tired. Like, I think one of the things that I always look at everything at a homeostatic curve, because I swear things go way too high, then they go way too low. And I remember when I first started out in strength and conditioning, we were kind of at that point where it was like, well, you have to grind all the time, and you have to give everything that you have to the profession. And so that's what I ended up doing. That's what my peers ended up doing, and it allowed us to be successful. And now I feel like we've kind of flipped on the opposite side a little bit. Now it's a little bit too like, I really need to take care of myself. I need to, not overstress myself. Like I can't be outside of my 40 hours per week. And it's just like, ultimately, like there is a time and a place once you reach enough work where I feel like, okay, you can start to be more concerned with those things, but it's gotten a little too, like, I don't want to put the word soft on it, right? Because I think that's just like it's a bad connotation for the overall profession. But at the same time, like I think people and younger strength coaches are kind of avoiding that work a little bit. I think they're a little bit scared of it. And it's ultimately not going to lead to their success down the line.
How many strength coaches have you talked to that complain about the interns that are, it's this generation, they're soft or right? So
well, and to be fair, how many strength coaches complained about us as well too?
yeah, I'm not pointing fingers, but right, it's different. it's different when you have some authority, right? I think that's like the one thing, and not to say that, you need to be given, some space to, feel like you're autonomous, or some space to feel like you're in charge of something. But one of the best experiences I had was at SC, where Coach Steiner somehow felt trust in me, where he gave me the RTP guys to do a little bit of stuff, and he had it pre-programmed, and he would just let me do it. And then one day I was like, hey, like, there's nothing on this list right now. I was like, yeah, you write it, you do it. I'm like, all right, cool. And I would handle like some of the RTP stuff within, the muscle beach or the pit during practice and things of that nature. And he gave me a lot of autonomy just to like do some stuff. And it was all, it was all harmless stuff, right? It was really hard to screw up. It was pretty dummy proof.
Yeah.
But there was definitely like a lot of like, okay, like let's do this. And then we switched guys after a certain amount of time. And it was really this like big eye opener. I was like, oh yeah, I could do this. Like I could, have some fun with this, and decided, especially like coming from a baseball background, with like half of the lifting, is RTP anyway, because guys are always like complaining about, being hyper aware of this, that, and the other. So that being said, like, yeah, like everyone has moments of softness, or moments of instability, or moments of whatever. It's, what led up to that, and then how do you pivot away from that, or how do you like lean into that so that you can, build off of it, right? And I don't know what the answer is, but at the most part, like, everyone's soft. Everyone's just trying to hide it, though. Everyone's really good at masking it, right?
That's a great point.
There's something where somebody has a weakness and they're doing jujitsu for whatever reason, and whatever the trope is of strength coaches as they get to a certain age, right, or doing marathons.
Yeah, I no joke, I've ran a marathon and I do jiu-jitsu, so I've quite literally fallen into both of those.
Facts. And I love that, because it's like physical chess, right? That's whatever Joe Rogan says. It's like physical chess with, dire consequences. And the marathon's like a test of capacity. So these are all things where it's like, hey man, I'm not going to run 20 miles an hour anymore. Like, I was decently fast. I got classically trained by a, former Olympian, right? So it's like, I'm not going to be running fast anymore. I don't have that. Like, my superpowers have all been taken away at this point. I'm just, I'm just Bruce Banner now. Like, let me just have some fun doing something, let me be competitive. I downloaded the chess app and I'm trying to figure this out, right?
And so what do you do physically to challenge yourself still?
I'm still lifting. My training is pretty much like just dog water, though. Like, I'm doing like let's say it's 5-3-1, where I honestly will squat once every 2 weeks, deadlift once every 2 weeks. Every other week, I'll either do a bench press or a squat. Sorry, a squat or a deadlift. Trying to get back up to like closer to 700, which is like probably sketchy, but here I am. Don't let my wife hear that because she hates it. But yeah, and like I like rotating different bars, and like I grew up on a concurrent system and like using different things, different applications, and being very creative with the ways that things are picked and chosen, and trying to get certain adaptations out of things. So, I switch a bar every once in a while once I get to a certain number, So it's besides that, it's just slop. I'll just slop maxing, and
but you're still doing something, and that's what matters. I swear.
Yeah, it's physical. We get. I was talking to a buddy the other day and trying to explain our system, but Coach Corey Miller brought this system of finding guys within our strength staff, and he at the Carolina Panthers, where he was using it, like and involved with it, they were actually doing it with the trainers and the nutrition staff, dietitians as well. And it's like, if you don't train every third day at the minimum, like, you get a fine. If you use the elevator, it's a fine. If you're acting a little bit caliente or spicy, or sensitive, it's different tiers of fines, right? And there's a bunch of other stuff that, like, you get involved with. If you let's say if we're off the airplane or on the bus going to or from somewhere on a bus, if you use the bathroom in the bus, am I allowed to curse? If you crap on the bus, you crap on the team. It's like the fine, right? That's one of them, right? So there's a lot of different nuances.
That's not a fine in our team. That's a straight up kicked off the team, I swear.
Yeah. So there's
the sacred rule.
The things that I talk to, and my dad played baseball and basketball at the University of Maryland. So I explain these things to him, and like he doesn't get them, because like a lot of the stuff he was just focused on what he was doing. Like, you don't understand, like, as a coach, like, we're dealing with young adults. Again, they're young and impressionable. I call them kids sometimes. I don't like using that term anymore, but my dad calls them kids, so it's conversational. But like we mentioned before, like with the 6-year stuff now, and the guys and whatever the rules are anymore, there's no rules, right? Like, let's just go with that. we get guys that are 25 years old, and like that's scientifically when the prefrontal cortex has been fully developed, right? And we're like, I'm just test driving
Some
this
would
thing
say.
now. This is I just got this thing. Like, what are we doing? What is this? So foresight is, is huge, and a lot of guys just don't have that skill, and that's one of the, speaking of like soft skills are huge.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think soft skills make the ultimate difference, especially with what you're trying to do and why you got into strength and conditioning, which is helping athletes transition and have a positive experience of going into kind of the real world post athletics. Like you have to be able to know how to speak with them, but the biggest way to communicate is by having a really good relationship built via those soft skills on the front end.
No doubt. And like going back to the intern situation, we get a lot of interns that are undergrad too, or some that are local. And they don't know, some of them don't know if they want to do strength conditioning or athletic performance or athletic training or what they want to get into, but we still try to give them, the skills to be able to approach someone, ask them what they're doing, have a conversation while still getting work done. Situational awareness, just being able to read the room, like all those skills are just, I mean, even coaching, like I know that's more of a coaching specific thing, but like if you're going to use that like in any profession, you'd probably think that would be important or
Yeah.
critical within the range of, just trying to be a human afterwards and being successful at any level.
Well, it's funny. I actually, I'm glad you guys bring people in and try to teach them more skills. I just spoke to a exercise science class 2 days ago, and I told them that they can come shadow anytime, and anybody here has that open invitation if they're curious about strength and conditioning. But you can definitely not intern unless you want to be a strength and conditioning coach. I've officially set that rule for myself because I've had a few too many interns discover about halfway through the semester that this is not necessarily what they wanted to do.
Like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is not it. This is not.
Oh,
This is
great.
not
Well, you're
it.
still stuck with me for another 6 weeks here, brother. So let's
Yeah,
enjoy the time we've got together.
yeah.
Um,
Understand commitment because you're an adult now, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. This is actually a great lesson for you in the future. You have to finish this out because I rely on you. So,
Facts.
um, well, something you can identify with that you mentioned earlier was, your coach getting fired early on, especially within a season. It can be extremely challenging, and especially from the psychological standpoint. Like, obviously, people understand, there's the challenges of, well, the players might end up transferring out at the end of the year, or coaches may not have their jobs at the end of the year. Like, those things can be very, very draining. But I feel like there's other certain challenges that you don't even necessarily think of, like who is going to step up and going to be the leaders, like who are going to be the ones who convince us and the rest of the guys that, hey, it's a great idea to keep pushing and try to give everything that we can. What was that experience like for you, and what were the lessons that you took from it?
When someone puts their faith or like their monetary value behind you and bring you from your hometown to LA or whatever the school is, and they trust you to do well and perform, and they're going to develop you, and then that person is removed from said space, it's very difficult and hard on the guys, right? So the first thing was, first thing Coach Steiner said, and Chad Smith said, we gotta love the guys up, just love them up, like just be soft with them, right? Going back to that word soft, just be soft with them. Like the guys are hurting, the guys were devastated when they were told that, and then like me, like spanning that time of having three head coaches in one calendar year, going from Clay Helton to Coach Dante, who took over, to Coach Lincoln Riley, it was very difficult to understand. Like, hey, like nobody, do you really want to lift in week 8 or week 9, like when your body's beat up and we're not really going to be bowl eligible possibly, and uh, like who knows what's going on right now? Like for the most part, it's like if we can do one thing, and again, the mastery of Corey Miller as our head strength coach here, our director of football performance at UCLA, is be the most stable, portion of their day. Be the most stable and most coherent, most communicative group to provide some stability in the day, which, besides class is outside here. But when you come in, because you're at that institution for football, right? We joke about this, and it's always, student first and then athlete second, right? And, and like the joke behind that is like they're here for that, and if we're going to be able to provide them that service, we want to make sure that we're not high one day and then low the next day, and we're really loud and energetic, but the next day we're kind of flat. Now, if we're doing a recovery like we did today on Wednesday, we want to be a little even key. We want to kind of drop the tonality and make sure that they're in a down regulated state. That being said, somebody talked about Jordan, Kobe, and some other stuff, and Shaq, and now we're having a conversation. And guys are throwing foam rollers at each other, and at the weight room and whatnot. But they feel open and able to have that conversation in front of our coaches and ask us and get us involved. And they're really animated. And I wish they were that animated about academics, right? Books and ball. I'm just kidding. But the idea there is like, hey, just no matter what, I don't know what these guys are going through. And we've had some, over the years, some stuff where a guy has to go home for a family member or this or that, or some things are going on. Like, they're human too. And they have obligations outside of here that are not just, aligned with, hey, just spot the ball up and let's see what happens. So ensuring that, what's up, coach? So everyone just feels free and open to, say it like it's great. So
that is, I think you set that up because that was a perfect example of what the culture you're trying to develop there.
So we want to be player ran, right? And we want to be player led. And Coach Foster does an amazing job of setting the parameters for that. And then Coach Tesso comes in here with his, they just got done a big lift. I'm taking today off. So I have to lift tomorrow or I'm on the fine board. We have a board. So when recruits come in, we have a space and it says like Coach Sweat, elevator on this date, elevator on this date, elevator on this date, right? And then it's Coach Miller, not training. And then Coach Brasher, misinformation is another one. It's a funny one. Our misinformation one's always funny. But again, allowing the space to just have some fun and just be a person, in between the stuff. Like when you put the pads on, yeah, we got to go. We're still going to, be as brutal as we can, with the opposing team and impose our will and be physical. But we're going to do it in a way that's, the UCLA way of our standards, our Dre standards, our discipline, respect, and enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a huge piece of that. You can be as disciplined as you want. You need all three of those pillars. You can be as disciplined as you want, do everything the right way, and just not have any fun or do anything in the matter which, excites you. You can be too enthusiastic and not disciplined and be loose. And, every time one guy goes in, you might as well just, walk him back, push him back 10 yards. That's already 2 flags for false starts or what have you, right? So the respect of the game means I had to have a balance. I had to be enthusiastic, but I had to be disciplined. I had to be highly disciplined in certain situations, enthusiastic in others. And I have to respect, what's going on, the school, who came before us. And Coach Foster does a great job of, emitting those pillars to the guys. Our job is to echo that and make sure that, within this realm, on campus in Wasserman, and then around Westwood and anywhere they go, that it's easy for them to continue to make choices that are, from Dre as opposed to being impulsive, under 25-year-old guys, with that prefrontal cortex we keep mentioning, right?
Well, okay, so I'm curious, how do you keep that kind of human aspect at the forefront? Because I think it's the best way to coach athletes 100%, but it can be difficult sometimes too, especially when it gets to late season. And, we've been there before where it's tight at the end of the season for a conference title race and certain guys aren't taking care of business the way they need to. Or, you may in the off season be worried about what the results are going to be upcoming. Like, at the end of the day, there is a true statement to collegiate athletics, and that's if you win or lose, that's going to determine your availability to be continue to be employed at the university or not.
Correct.
And so how do you kind of keep the human at the forefront on the micro level, like from the day to day?
Yeah, so I want to preface that and qualify that exact sentiment by saying we have all this technology of Vault with our Nord boards on Monday to make sure that their hamstrings and their asymmetry is, decent enough to go into Tuesday, which is our, our green day, our let it rip day, right? Longer practices, full pads. We have our counter movement jump, to make sure that we're getting our good heights and all the metrics that go with our force deck, our whole suite through Vault, right? To make sure that after practice, we do our CMJ and we lift, we make sure that they're in a good spot. On Thursday, we do our drop jump from 12 inches, make sure that their RSI is good. And we talk about all the things, within the force deck, that are privy to Coach Brasher, who does a tremendous job as our sports scientist. He's our Tony Stark. And then our match day +1. So on our Sunday, we are doing our thermohuman, which is our setup with our infrared thermography, and we can see what their hotspots are the day after. We're thinking about doing a grip test to see where the CNS is. All these things are, indicators of state, readiness, fatigue. But if you really know someone and you've had conversations with them, and it's difficult when you have 120 guys, now 105 or whatever it is, but there's time to carve out conversations and things during training. If you find out certain things about certain guys, I like to know, one to two, maybe three things that typically a guy wouldn't know about a certain other guy. Right. I like to know that this guy back home, he likes to eat checkers. And I've had checkers before. That's pretty good. That's a pretty kind of niche place in terms of where we're at, in California, right? Being from Maryland, this guy being from South Carolina, right? So um knowing little things, it's easier to, hey man, like no way you're getting any checkers. I'm bringing checkers for you tomorrow if you're going to be, not pushing hard on this, IMTP or whatever it is. Right. So I can kind of like get into a little bit of having some fun conversation with guys and understanding that, all that testing protocol and the whole vault suite to bring up that, like, I should already know if a guy's going to be doing well or not. Now I'm just statistically qualifying where they're at during that space and time, if they're on the hot list or not, and whether or not they're going to be at their best. You can kind of know something's up if you just pay attention a little bit, to the psychological/human aspect of it, or you can just be completely unaware and just look at the numbers and be informed with data and have that drive you, as opposed to being able to manipulate that during the times and understand, hey man, this guy, he needs to do some activation before he needs to get into. We have a relationship with a nearby recovery place. He needs to go into that float tank for 45 minutes because they say that equivalent that kind of sets up like 4 hours of sleep is what the equivalent is, right? So maybe he needs to go float in some salt. Maybe he needs to go do some cryo. Maybe he just needs, like, hey, let's go sit him down. Let's have position coach if we need to. But hey, let's hit him first with something quick, and then just kind of see, hey, like let's make sure we're even. Hey, let's bypass that. Let's go talk to position coach. Has he been good in film? Like what's going on with what's he putting on tape right now? Is everything good? Is he a little bit off? Where are we at? So I should know. Maybe that's like the second or third step is all the statistical driven stuff, all the data that we're collecting before we analyze it, of where they're at. I should already kind of know, hey, he's not flying right, something's up. So having informal conversations is a big one too. It's like, hey man, what's going on? A guy might unload on something, or hey man, what's going on? And I'm good. Oh no, like don't say that, because I just saw you jump 12 inches on that dang CMJ, and your NordBoard has a 20% asymmetry, even though your power is still good. You feeling something? Like let's or maybe, hey, we take the scan of the thermohuman and we say, like, maybe like a quad is a little bit, discolored, and let's say it's a CNS saying, hey man, you got to go get some sleep. Like what's going on? Your quad's bothering you, whatever. Oh yeah, I've been place holding a lot this week, or I got a helmet to the quad, whatever. Like, oh, no wonder your numbers are down on this and the other, right? Doing okay? Yeah, it's tough. I got to play on the other side this week. I'm not used to it. It's been rough. So there's some things we can kind of get into and have conversations. And I like, again, player led. So like I tell this to Brash all the time, like we're always investigating what's going on. The data helps us investigate and get clues. We're not here to make presuppositions of like what is actually happening, right? If we're assuming, then we're already, in the hole too deep. So to understand, where the guys are and where they're coming from and a little bit of their background, or, what they're into. And guys are wearing anime shirts now, and that's like fun too. And then kind of like pick apart that and like look stuff up now and have some fun with them, or like different things they're saying, and whatever the cool colloquial terms are. Like you can really dive and take your shovel and really dig as much as you want to, because they'll let you. Like they want to have some fun. Like they're still dudes at the end of the day. They want to have some fun. They want to do well, and they want their their face on the board with the crown. If they win the CMJ and they win the drop jump for height and speed, there's a speed threshold minimum they got to hit for those. They get the crown on top, right? So they all want that. They're not worried about the strongest Bruin where they have the board, right? So investigate, let them lead the conversation. And this might, talking to a couple other coaches as well, it might sound like, hey, I'm like trying to like get some information out of you, or I'm investigating. You don't want to make it feel like you're cross-examining a guy and you're sitting at a table and you have the light in their face, ask them where they were, the night of the whatever. So you really have to just be there, just be in that same space with them, and just understand, like, hey man, like we're trying to have some fun too. Like I'm trying to win too. I know I'm not wearing pads, and I know I'm not going to go out there with you, but like, come on, I want to have some fun too. Like, let me have a little bit of fun. What's going on? you know?
Yeah, that background information makes a huge difference. Like it just makes those conversations so much easier. Like I can literally think of, we have a weight loss guy. He's been maintaining his weight for, I mean, over a year now, and then I saw it slowly start creeping back up. And I noticed, I mean, I'm not talking anything drastic, but I also noticed is that by the same time they started dating his new girlfriend, right? And
Mm,
so I know this about him because he's open with the information with me, but like it makes it way easier to have that conversation because all I had to say was like, hey man, when I started dating my fiance, I gained about 20 pounds because we were going to cook out all the time and having fun and going on sushi dates and doing all this stuff. Like, that's just something you need to be aware of because I know you've been taking your girlfriend out to, Betty's Biscuits or whatever it is because you got an NIL deal with them, so like just
mm-hmm.
be aware of those things. And like, that just makes those conversations so much easier. And I feel like it allows you to address things before they get out of control. And then it just allows the athlete to be a little bit more open with you as well too, because they know that, like you said, you're not treating them like a robot. You're not treating them like you're cross-examining them and you're trying to find out something and say like, oh, gotcha. Like we figured out what the problem is and it's a problem with you. Instead it's like this coach cares about me and wants to see me succeed. And like you said, he wants to win too. So let's help him out a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I know you're doing something wrong, and I know this is the outcome of that. And it's like, hey Connor, don't do that. What's the first
Yeah.
thing you're gonna do, right? Like
Go
instinctively, it's
straight.
like,
I'm
dude,
going to do it right away. Yeah.
I'm not listening to you, man. I'm gonna double down and like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that and expedite that as quickly as I can, just in spite of that now, right? So it's kind of one of those things where some of the conversations have been, hey, like you're doing something and we're seeing this result. Like, let's stream. Like, if you were to be a month from now and talk to yourself right now, like, what advice would you give yourself, or like a week from now, or like 3 days from now after this, whatever happened, right? Whatever the incident is, or the micro incidents that cause whatever this conversation is, right? So it's like, what about 2 years from now? Are you in pro ball right now? Are you playing somewhere? Like, who are you playing with? What practice clothes are you wearing right now? And what are you like? What game are you throwing to your like younger self? Understand that and try to take yourself out of it by kind of using yourself in the future of where you want to be. Have you thought about like where you want to be? I want to go to the NFL. That's great. Everyone does. I want to go to the NFL. I haven't gotten drafted in 15 years now. That just went by, right? But I'm not going to be. I'm going to make it there anytime soon. Playing, right? So I'm not going to be in pads. I have zero experience in that. So take yourself where whatever you see yourself, whatever again time, wherever that is. Try to understand like what the conversation would be like, or like what kind of questions would you be asking yourself if like it was the other way around. So it's not like you older telling you younger, what the deal is, even though the time gap might be a month from now. It's what questions are you asking that person? Hey, did this go well? Hey, did I get through this? Hey, how did I strategically whatever? And I think that's been a good tool in terms of just like kind of, hey, you're doing something wrong. Finger point, finger point, finger point. You're doing something wrong. This is what's going to happen. Don't do that anymore. We're gonna fine you, or whatever the spiel is, right? Wherever you are. So that's much better than having that conversation like, hey man, you're not doing, you're not living right. You need to be here, or hey man, like you missed a meal. What you got to do? We got this and that, right? So um, that allows them to kind of open up. It's like, yeah, I know. And then after that, we probably see like, hey man, I know I know we talked about it and I was doing good and I kind of back. These guys don't need new information. They need to be referenced to standards like over and over. They need reminders and to be reminded because there's so many different things going on with meetings, classes, external stuff, right? Family and whoever else is in their social circle, as well as just like interacting with their own team outside of their position group, within their position group. There's so many lenses that like we're looking through that things get distorted after a certain amount of time. So removing themselves from that equation sometimes, or kind of distancing themselves with some time, and then having the conversation looking back is like super helpful. It's like reverse engineer this thing. Like, what does it look like? Where are you? You don't have to close your eyes. I'm not going to get woo with you, but do understand that like you want to be somewhere and you're not working towards that right now. You told me you wanted to be here. Um, like funny example, and I can joke about it now, but like you're on the shade room. I don't even know how that worked out. I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I know that's a thing. And the dude's been absolutely a hammer ever since. So we want to make sure that these guys are taken care of and they're protected as much as we can. But again, going back to the term soft, like we have to have those soft skills where we actually can have a conversation with somebody and they're not just bullshitting us or just giving us, information that's here or there and just not important, or they kind of just, scoff and don't really open up.
Mm. I think that's an incredibly valuable tool. I haven't really heard of that much because, if I were to go out and, in our lift later today and I was going to say, okay, who here wants to go to the NBA? Everybody's raising their hand, including my GA in the back,
Right,
like
right.
they're all going to be excited about it. But ultimately, like when you make it specific, it allows it to be a little bit more realistic for them. And then actually tying it back into, okay, well, do those actions match what you're doing right now? Does those actions match where you want to be, and would that allow you to get to where you want to be? And I think, like you said, it is very important to give your athletes reminders because there are so many distractions, and it's very, very interesting. I would almost relate it to like asking like a sophomore, what do you think as a senior captain you would be saying to yourself right now? How would you approach those conversations? And because they're all smart, like they all know these things. It's not like they are. I knew when I was 19 that not going to class was probably not a good idea, right? But I still didn't go to class. But if I had told myself now, if I had the opportunity to talk to myself when I was 19, hey, you should probably go to class more, I probably would have listened a little bit more too. Like all these athletes know these things. They know what it takes to get there, but it's just hard for them to kind of follow through on it. So I love that simple reminder because it is simple, but it's just a quick way to check them and say, you're probably not matching what you need to be doing right now to actually be successful and get to where you want to be.
Yeah, the most critical part about that, I think, is we are mandated reporters, right? As like professionals within the collegiate sector, but to mistrust them or to abuse that trust would be to talk about what they're talking about openly, right? And I'm not saying like
Yep.
we're snitching on stuff, but like to use information um, against them or to use what they've given you as some kind of like ploy in a different way can definitely ruin a relationship. It takes so much to build trust with somebody and build rapport, and it takes one little instance or one little aggression to lose all of it immediately, right? So, I mean, I know when I was in college, I talked to the academic advisor and I appealed to take extra credits, so I would sign up for the same. I got I got an econ degree, an economics degree, right? So it's like, what am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. Like my first my freshman year, it was finance, and then I transferred to a community college, and the closest thing they had to finance was accounting. Got my AS there, and then when I transferred to UMBC, the closest thing they had to finance or accounting was economics. I'm like, this is a behavioral science, you guys. This is not the numbers that I'm used to dealing with. I'm good with numbers, right? This is not it. This is very difficult. So I appealed, and what I would do was um, they allowed me to take extra credits. So I would sign up for the same Econ 405 or whatever the course was with different professors. And I would go to syllabus day and I would drop the class that had all the quizzes and exams, or sorry, all the quizzes and homeworks and like little projects and stuff. And I would only take the course with the professor that had a midterm and a final. And I would just not show up, and I would get the book and I would figure it out and look at the syllabus and all the different things we were reading and all the articles and stuff and try and figure it out. And yeah, I graduated at 2.57, GPA. I'm not afraid to say that. I had to appeal to get into my master's program and write a letter. And right. So like, I would like our guys not to have to deal with that, whether they're getting a master's degree or a 1-year certificate or whatever they're doing, whatever they're pursuing outside of their 4-year degree. But getting a degree from UCLA is a big deal. And we really emphasize that. So understanding that there's so many things going on, there's so many distractions. Oh, and guess what? You're in LA. Good luck.
Yeah, I had to write the letter of shame as well for my master's program.
Yeah.
I have my GPA was certainly not where it needed to be. I had a great GRE score, like, and it was the only
Beautiful.
reason they looked at my application. But I certainly had to write a full letter that said, "I promise you, I've changed my ways." So I understand that
and
situation.
Don't use that information I just told you to abuse the system like I did.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of days to just train and sleep and eat and just, yeah, there was some anxiety and worry, and of course there was, but
Yeah, you just gave the secret hack to all the student athletes listening to this right now. They just figured it out. Then they're going to come back to me and they're going to say, "Yeah, I graduated with a 2.6, even lower than Sean."
I was eligible and I, got after it. So
that's all that matters. Well, real quick. I do want to dive back into this fine system quickly. How much is the fine?
just $1, and then we kind of added up over
$1,
time.
but that's enough. Seriously. So $1 fine is there, and what does the fine go towards? Is this like a group lunch or anything?
Yeah, we do like a barbecue and we'll cook out at the end and we'll have a whole spiel. I did the math and I tried to break the system where with the elevator thing, there was a certain thing where somebody saw me in an elevator, but it wasn't me because I came down the other way. There's logistics and it turns into, I feel like I'm playing GoldenEye on the N64 sometimes, but just sniping people. And I did the math. If I use the elevator 2 to 3 times a day for how many days I'm here per week for the entire portion of the year, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely okay with paying that. And just if and let's say you catch me 80% of the time, that like lowers. Okay, yeah. So I tried to break the game a little bit. I'm horrible. I try to break systems, and that helps. I joke around with Coach Brasher, our director of sports science. I'm like, and as a serious note, like trying to find the blind spots of what's going on with our training and where we're at, and the proponent of like testing and how much testing do we need to do, and we're assessing this and we're looking at that. Like how much do we like? I'm looking for blind spots, trying to break the system to understand, what can we improve on, what can we mitigate, and then how can we be as reductionist as possible while still being effective, right? The minimal effective dose. And at a certain point, I was like, yeah, here's $20. This is for me for next week and this week. So, right. It's horrible.
What is misinformation? What would qualify as misinformation?
So we do like a lay of the land. One of our funnier ones, we did a lay of the land. It was supposed to be raining at a certain point at a time of the day. And we go over, as a staff, we go over, we're playing on grass, what kind of grass, turf, what kind of grass, or what kind of turf rather. Is it more bouncy? How many fans at a typical game? What's the crowd noise like? All these external factors that we kind of look at, and how can we influence practice like leading up into that game? And it was supposed to rain one day and it didn't, and it turned into this, to get some misinformation, fine, or hey, this guy didn't weigh in, but he did weigh in, but somebody wrote it down as the wrong name, or like these, just little things, or it could be big. But it's fun, and there's some other fines that I can't really discuss on air.
I'm sure.
Of just some stuff that you're not supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, I'm only asking about the system because I'm going to implement it with myself and our interns here.
It's a good time
in our GA.
It's a good time, and a lot of the stuff I can't mention just has to be like, hey, somebody grab 2 boxes of lunch, right? So like, yeah, an angel food cake, fine. Grabbing too much dessert. Stuff like that, so it's fun. Or not re-racking your bars, leaving stuff out is another one. Not having a stopwatch, not having a whistle on you at all times when there's athletes with you, and stuff like that. So there's some seriousness to it. It's a little bit of a kangaroo court, but it's fun.
Well, I can promise you that truly, if you were to go number 2 on a bus, that'd be straight execution. I mean, that's the number one rule. Like we don't very clearly state rules a lot of the times, but that's like the number one thing. Yeah, first time everybody gets on a bus is like, you absolutely cannot do that. Like there's no possible
immediately.
way.
Yeah.
That's rough. You're getting dropped off at this cookout on the side of the road, and then we'll come pick you up on the way back. That's your punishment. So.
Yeah, man.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really enjoyed it. For anybody who wants to follow you, what would be the best way to do that?
I'm pretty I'm on Instagram. I just got a Twitter yesterday, or an X. I just got one.
Is the first ever account?
Yeah, my wife's a high school.
That's insane.
A high school volleyball coach. I want to watch. They have playoff games and they have like updates and stuff, right? So I want to know what's going on with her and her success. She also teaches Spanish at the high school, so I wanted to know what's going on. And there's recruits and stuff. And I've been avoiding X as much as possible, but Instagram is the one I'm most on. Is Coach COACH Sweat SWEAT. So just Coach Sweat without the extra A in there. Is easy to find where you just search my name. But yeah, man, I'm decently responsive to coaches and DMs, where I get a lot right now, and I'm trying to get to everybody. But I've had coaches DM and we get on a phone call and just chop it up and have some fun and just kind of go over what they're doing. And I'm always good with trying to push the profession forward. That's all we want to do.
I'm still astounded that X is generating new users, first time new users. I never would have thought in my entire life that would happen. So
I had Snapchat when it came out, right? I forget what year that was, but I had Snapchat when it came out, deleted it because I just was, just doing too much stuff.
Yeah.
Re-downloaded it, and there's like filters and all kinds of things. Snapchat is now this is too much. I deleted it again.
You get overstimulated quickly.
I act like I'm 90, but I'm not. Yeah.
Well, I mean, seriously, you drove up their ad revenue by one customer, so that's good for X. So
there it is.
Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate you greatly.
Thank you. Appreciate it.